No one needs to. I think it's running like so.
I stopped at coffee before, you know, which is
That was probably
a great thing to do.
No.
Okay. We start in like 5.
Sure. Now you put it there. Are you on?
I don't know. I know that there's a video right there. How they just thought hello
That's
YouTube.
fine. That's not a hard thing to do.
Let's go look at the YouTube app.
Good idea.
My ADHD timeline is usually means that I'm too early to things, so I'm like actually really happy to be.
Yeah.
Did you say that's your mom?
Yeah,
The one on the right?
yeah. Not the ones that look like they're 20.
Your mom. Close enough.
Yeah. Okay. I don't live here, but I probably.
Where do you?
North Carolina.
My sister. Where do you live?
It's like right on the border of, it's like technically Carborough, but kind of like.
Yeah. I know Carborough. Yeah. We go to the market there all the time. And my sister lives in Indian Trail. I don't know how to. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, not too, another mile down and you get the hair.
Candy.
My favorite grocery store. You live there, you go to school?
I went to college in Greensboro and then I came back here for a couple of years and then the pandemic hit and I was like, I can get here. What am I still doing?
What do you do there?
I write the NC State college engineering magazine, so it's like journalism on TV. I know nothing better than I talk about. So.
My brother-in-law is the squash coach at UNC.
Oh, yeah. That is, people from North Carolina get very offended if you conflate the two, but.
To get the blue wrong. I was meant to pick up a penny and the person at the.
NC State is red, which is nice.
Right.
But then, yeah, the Duke blue and the,
Yeah. All the doors in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
At least 80% of them.
Yeah. That is, my sister did a, like, fantasy,
Well, they live on like.
okay, yeah. But she found like a bunch of colleges from North Carolina, so she was like, oh, I'll pick one of these. My sister lives in North Carolina. And then she was like, okay, which blue do I like best? And
There's a piece of paper in my purse if you want to.
I was like, I do work at NC State, and she was like, but I like.
It's like there's a vaccine in my purse if you want to eat something.
Would you like your vaccine?
It's in my purse, I have it.
I can see you. That wasn't me. I also believe you're vaccinated. I realize it's not what this is for.
No, it's like they gave it to me at the pharmacy. Then like, that's like, no, it's for me.
Yeah. I'm pretty good at it. The work that I think. I was not at first. But
I don't remember what I did. I still haven't.
I feel like the publishers can get us.
I can't
yeah,
remember.
to it.
So if they're on
You are good at it.
I have plans with my sister.
Which is helpful, I guess.
Well, yeah, change
Thank you for the compliment.
right.
Thank you.
So far, but even that could be, you know.
Yeah. I had someone recently, and, you know, I submitted to them, and they were like, oh, yeah, we're actually, you know, we're okay, you know, like, why?
Yeah, Vaughn.
I can move my backpack. Don't worry, it's fine.
Okay. We'll give him a second. She gotta, you know. Okay. Hi, everyone. Yeah. Thank you all for being here. We're here for a reading and conversation with Nicole Zelniker, Marcia Bradley, and Karis Rogerson. I'm Mikey. I'm a volunteer here at the Bureau of General Services Queer Division. The Bureau is an all-volunteer independent queer bookstore that opened in 2012 and has been here in the center since 2014. Our regular hours are Wednesday to Sunday, 1 to 7 p.m., and we often stay open late for events like this. All the events are on our website and also on our Instagram at BGSQD. Quite the acronym. As a volunteer organization, we are dependent on donations and sales to fund the operations of the bookstore. And so if you don't plan on purchasing any books today, we would ask you that you consider making a donation to support the work that we do. So we're gonna pass around a little bag with some change in it. If you have cash on you, there's also a QR code on there for Venmo. But another great way to support us is to just buy the amazing books that are in the bookstore, including the books that we have here today as well, part of the conversation. And if you're not already on our email list, there's a sign up form in the back to add your email to it. We send out a newsletter all the time with all the amazing events coming up at the Bureau. And also, before I hand it over and dive in, we wanted to acknowledge that our organization operates on the unceded land of the Munsee Lenape. We encourage you to join the Bureau in signing up to make a monthly donation to the American Indian Communities House Manhattan Fund. The Manhattan Fund, according to its website, is an invitation to all settlers and non-native people who wish to acknowledge the legacy of theft and genocide that comprise the history of New York City and the United States. And you can find out more information at themanhattanfund.org. We would also like to recognize that today, September 15th, is the 345th day of Israel's genocidal campaign against the Palestinian people, funded by our tax dollars and enabled by our government's unwavering support. We hope that you will join us in calling for an immediate, permanent ceasefire, the release of all detainees held by Israel, the release of all hostages held by Hamas, an end to the siege of Gaza, and an end to the Israeli occupation of Palestinian territories, in order to stop the collective punishment of Palestinians and to ensure the swift delivery of desperately needed food, water, medicine, fuel, and humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza. Our greater hope is for peace, justice, and liberation from oppression for all people everywhere. And I'll now introduce Karis Rogerson, who will moderate today's wonderful conversation. And thanks all for being here. Yeah, wait, maybe out is easier.
Okay.
Pass. Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Second.
I am Karis Rogerson, and I'm delighted to be here moderating this conversation with Marcia and Nicole. So to kick us off, I'm gonna kick it over to each of them to give a brief introduction of themselves and their work, and then I have some fun questions. They're very fun.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm Marcia Bradley. I'm the author of The Home for Wayward Girls, which was published by HarperCollins last year. I love being here. I just said I want to live in this room and keep all the books as well. I live in the Bronx. I'm from LA. I moved here to get my MFA from Sarah Lawrence a few years ago. And I'm still living somewhat near to the school while I figure out what in the world I'm doing with my life.
Hi, I'm Nicole. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah.
I am the author of this book, and also proud cat mom, which I think is important. I'm from here. I currently live in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and I'm really excited to be in this space with y'all talking about books.
Okay.
I'm really that worried. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Same one. All the positive. So the first question, we're doing a bit of an icebreaker section. My friends who know me know I love icebreaker questions, so I'm subjecting all of y'all to it. So the first one, if you were to be transformed into any animal for 1 week, what animal would you be and why?
I would be a spoiled house cat.
Okay.
Because I see my cat and just how little she cares about anything in the world. And that just seems like a really nice vacation from my neurodivergent brain. So
For real.
I would be a monarch butterfly.
that's a better answer.
Just kind of like the colors. And I like the idea of flying above everything for a while.
Those are, no, those are amazing answers. I'm stashing them away for future use. Okay, so this is a writing related icebreaker question. It's kind of mean, and I apologize, but also I'm not sorry. Would you rather never write again or never read again?
We can share two also, if y'all get sick of.
I feel like I've gone back and forth about this because you did very kindly send us the questions yesterday. And I would love to take a rain check.
I think I'd give up writing if I had to. There's too many books. Reading my own writing would get very boring after. I would miss it terribly. It's my best friend. But I have so many books that I'm trying to read. If I was just given that time to just sit alone with books, I would be very, very happy.
Fair, both fair answers. And I do apologize. Okay, and I'm looking at the questions on my phone because I didn't have them written out, so. The next one is the inspiration section. So your books are right here. Nicole's is From Where We Are, Marcia's is The Home for Wayward Girls. And so I'd love to know from each of you, what led you to writing these books? Sort of, I guess, like what inspired it, but more broadly, what were the circumstances that led up to these books?
You wanna go? Do you want me to go? What's the? You go, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
So I was in grad school at Sarah Lawrence. It was around 2016. And I used to, on my breaks, I traveled with a friend and we went to like all the national parks, to Montana, Wyoming, Utah, the Dakotas, Four Corners, everywhere you could possibly imagine. And I realized that I was writing books that were just stories out of my own life that I was calling fiction. And I said to myself, what if you had to write true fiction with no one in it, no part of your own story. And so we're driving down this back road, and I won't say what state. And when you drive in those states that I've mentioned, you can drive 90 miles an hour. That's actually the speed limit. And so everything whizzes by really fast. I'm driving down this road, and out of the corner of my eye, I see this building, very nondescript, made kind of cinder blockish with windows and a sign that said Home for Girls. And I said, well, I'll write that story. That's where it came from.
Was it South Carolina that you go 90 miles an hour?
That's another one.
Yeah. Yeah, so my book is a novel of stories. So each chapter is narrated by a different person in the same family. I see like 3 people filming. Hello. I'm very shy. I'm masking so hard right now. But the yeah, so it's a Jewish family, and their story starts during Holocaust Germany and goes up until 2023. And so I definitely pulled a lot from my own life and from my own family experiences. I wanted to specifically touch on what it means to be Jewish and queer, because I get that question a lot, and not that it's anyone's business, but you know, the way that Judaism and queerness relate really depends on what sect of Judaism you're in. And so I kind of wanted to like touch on all of that. I wanted to touch on what it means to be an anti-Zionist Jew today, what it means to be living at a time where we can see genocide happening again, and this time perpetrated by people who claim to be doing it in our name. I wanted to touch on, you know, all of these things that I felt Jewish folks don't necessarily get to touch on because they're so often focused on the Holocaust specifically. So it starts there. But I pulled a lot of, you know, okay, well, what does my life look like? And what about the people that I know and love? So.
Yeah, thank you both for sharing those, the moments that inspired the book and also the sort of themes that went into it. I'd love to talk a little bit more in depth about each of your books now. So the first one is, what are some of your favorite elements that you put into your books. Now, this can be like a craft element, like you're really proud of how you wrote the dialogue, or it can be something as broad as like you love your characters.
Sure. I'll go first this time. I'll go with craft. I think one of the things that I really love about this book and that I'm excited that I did was that each section has a very different voice, but some of them have you know, like they're written in different tenses, different persons. So like there's a section written in second person that feels very special to me. There's a section where because the character is dealing with a lot of her trauma with drug and alcohol abuse, it's kind of like the words are choppier, and I thought that doing that, not to brag, but I was really excited when I did that. I was like, oh, that's cool. Who is she? But
No, this is your space to brag your knowledge.
I've only briefly looked at your book, but your first sentences of your different sections are really captivating. And just what you just said, like pull us in
Wow.
to, especially Rebecca. Is it the
Yeah.
second? Yeah, it's a great.
thank you.
So my book is written in third person close. So the main character's name is Loretta, and Loretta lives in Manhattan at the very beginning of the book. And I felt that was very important, that people know she's okay. So she's an adult at the beginning of the book. So you know she's survived the rest of the book. And then it goes back in time to when she was 17. And I've written a lot in first person, and in first person for some reason, and I haven't figured this out, but you can get deeper into the heart of a person's mind. And I wanted to do that in third person. And I feel fairly good about the job that I did, that you're in Loretta's head, you hear her thoughts, you identify with her. People at readings like this who've read my book tell me things about her that are not in the book. But it's wonderful because they've taken what is in there and they've extrapolated out from that, and they know her. They know a lot of things about her that I don't know, which is fascinating. And you said about our characters being our friends. And when I finished writing, I'm sure this is the same, it's very hard to put them away because I lived with Loretta for a few years in my cubby, if you will, and I know everything about her. I know everything she wears and eats and where she eats and what she cares about. So I was very happy about writing in third person like that, really close. Made me feel good.
Yeah, that's definitely a skill that I'm still mastering. The third person, so it's like getting into that depth of the character. So I think that's amazing. The next question is, what is something about this book, about each of your books, that you feel might surprise readers? No spoilers. Just based on like what they know about the book at first glance.
Yeah. I think to comment on what you said before, sometimes they're friends and sometimes they're frenemies, and that needs to be said. Do you want to go first, or do you want? No? Okay. Well, what was the question?
What is something that might surprise readers about your books?
Okay.
Just based on like the marketing that's available.
Yeah. I don't think this crowd, especially as we're gathered in, like this queer space and everything, but I think just the intersection of identity, that was like very important for me to include. And I've had people read it and be like, wow, I didn't expect it to be so queer, because it's specifically about Jews. And I'm like, well, I'm a queer Jew, and I wanted to I wanted to include that. And the intersection of like what it means to be a person of color and Jewish and different, and that was something I used a sensitivity reader for as a white person. But I think that intersection was very important to me, and I think that I have had readers be surprised about that in the past.
I think there's a lot. So the Home for Wayward Girls, I wrote this book about what would it be like to be in a residential program for teen girls. And the most miraculous things happen when you're writing it, you know, where intersections of things that occur. So I start writing this book about what would it be like, and you're out in the plains in the middle of nowhere, being pretty much tortured all the time for just being a girl who got sent away by her parents because she needed to be reformed. That's what all the girls that are there, that's their circumstance. Loretta is there because her parents owned the home, and so she's always lived there. What's funny is, as I wrote it, I tried to think of things like what's the worst thing, punishment you could do to a 16-year-old girl? And I would come up with things like silence and you know, not allowing them to talk, and letting other people talk about them in their presence. And that's when that intersection happened, because at the same time, I began discovering the troubled teen industry in the United States. And so the things that I was writing met their mates, if you will. So it was very goosebumps, just because it's actually worse than what I could imagine. 200,000 kids a year in the United States are sent off to wilderness programs of all kinds. And so on the back of my book, what might surprise people is a letter. There's a letter about what's going on in Congress to try and regulate this industry. There's quotes my new friend, Paris Hilton, we're like this. Paris Hilton is quite an advocate for teens, and has met with lots of people in Congress. And I've talked to some people who work with her. And as well, I had a sister who lived in homes all her life, but I never thought of it. She lived in Illinois. She lived in a wilderness program. She had a lot of issues, but she lived in residential homes almost all her life. And I began to really question, you know, what was the truth? And when she told us things, we would visit and she'd say, well, we're not getting our snack today because somebody did something. And my brothers and sisters, and there were 5 of us, would be like, oh, come on. But now, I think that probably is true. There's food deprivation as a big punishment used all across this country. And so I feel really proud of what I discovered, but it's also very frightening. So I hope people become more aware of it, that it's not unusual. And oftentimes at readings, someone or another comes up to me and they've been in these programs. So it's very well known. And hopefully, just last thing on that, these programs are government funded, but there's no regulation. I would like to be government funded without any regulations. There is no oversight. There is no data collection because they call themselves schools. And so we don't even know how many kids are there or why they're there. And so that's all people like Paris Hilton are saying is we need to collect data and we need basic rights, because we don't even have the rights of inmates in jail when you're a teen in these programs. So that's my little dialogue on that.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing all of that. And thank you both of you for your answers. They were really illuminating in terms of like the intersections that you talked about, and how books, they are entertainment, but they can also be a way of educating, in a way of sharing, in a way of letting people see a different view of the world from what they have. And I think it's really wonderful that both of your books are doing that. So what was your journey to publication? Like, how did you get here with a book in your hands?
So I signed this book twice. It was a very long journey to publication for this one. So I started writing it a while ago and didn't really put all the pieces kind of together until someone in a writing group mentioned, you know, oh, this would be really cool. It's like, you know, a collection of story. And I was like, whoa, that's that shifted everything. So I put it together. I started querying. And the first people that I spoke to kind of held on to it for a really long time. And, you know, we went back and forth, but we never actually signed. And then they were like, actually, we don't want this. So I was like, okay, great. So back in the querying trenches, another publisher picked it up, and was super excited about it. I reached out to be like, hey, it's been a while, you know, are we going anywhere? And they were like, oh, the person you talked to left, and we're no longer publishing your book. It's like, okay, okay, great. So I finally found Vine Leaves Press, which is the publishing company that I published with, and they were fantastic. They did super thorough edits. They had questions about everything, which was super helpful. And just really great about, even if I had the answers, just really great thinking, you know, okay, well, they're paying attention and they know. And they also designed this really gorgeous cover, which I constantly got complimented on and I had nothing to do with. So yeah, so they've been really great, but yeah, so it was a long process, but I ended up really lucky.
Vine Leaves is wonderful.
I love it.
Jessica, is that her?
Yeah.
Publisher,
Mhm.
and she does the covers,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
I have, one of my students has a book coming up with them, from them, next year.
Who's your student?
Daria,
I know that name.
Daria Summers.
We'll talk later.
But Vine Leaves is great if you're looking for a press that's going to become a big press, I believe, because they do some very important publishing. How many writers in here? How many people are writers? Okay, we have a few. So, so I wrote the manuscript, my draft, and in it there was more than one point of view. So we had Loretta's point of view, and then at times I veered off into the father's point of view for reasons I thought made sense. And my agent, when they sent this book out to different publishers, got the feedback that they didn't like that. And so if you have any writing friends, you can tell them this is a great story, because we pulled the book back, said, don't read it to anyone else who had it. Marcia's gonna fix it. And my agent called me and said, I don't like you being in William's head. Can you take that out? And like any agent, any writer would say, of course I can. I can do anything. And she said, how long will it take you? 6 weeks. I said, okay. And then you hang up on your agent and you go, okay, what do I do? I mean, William his head was important. There's whole chapters where Loretta's not there. So you can't tell a story in third person and through a character alone. She has to be in the room. I always say to my students, you can only in third person tell what your character can see. They can't see back here, they can't see over here, they can only see this. And so I had to get rid of William and figure out how to still make that information available to the reader. And when I finished, they were right. It was the better book, and even William did not deserve those 50 pages that he had. It was giving him a spotlight that an evil person shouldn't have. And after that, we sent it out and sold it within 2 weeks. So
That's amazing.
yeah, the wonderful kind of fairy tale story. And but it happens. That's why I ask if people are writers, because it does happen.
So on both of your journeys to publication, was there something that pleasantly surprised you? I know the journey to publication is famously so easy and fun for everyone involved. You know, obviously. So what surprised you in a good way?
I think for me, how many people come to readings personally, which is wonderful. Thank you for being here. It really isn't a high. It really isn't up. Like I walked in today, remember, and I saw, no, it was Mikey at the desk, and I saw my book. I didn't even expect to see my book. And I was like, wow, look this up. You know, it's a really neat feeling. And you know, we worked really hard on these books. So you know, to get those little wonderful moments is fantastic. And people do come up to me at readings and they say the most amazing things. Sometimes they'll say, I really wanted to know more about, they name a character I don't remember being in the book. Oh yeah, her. So you gotta be careful what you put in your stories, but they wanna know more. And that's also such a wonderful compliment to have a reader want to know more about your story. And then as well, a number of people come up and and kind of pull me aside to tell me that they've been to these places or their friend has or someone. So a lot of emotional accolade, which is fantastic.
I think I have been pleasantly surprised by the emotional response to the book. I had a friend recently read it and then say, you know, oh, I talked to my, my mom about our family history because this really inspired me to do that. Or, people saying that they just felt really seen by XYZ characters. So I think that would be my answer. And it's happened, throughout the years with different books, but it always surprises me.
It's always nice to hear that the words that you put down, like in your silent moments, really resonated with people.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So what's next for both of you? What's next? I don't know. I'm just gonna keep saying what's next, thinking I'm gonna come up with a new way of phrasing it.
So I'm pretty done with this book tour, which is nice because it's been great, but also I'm exhausted. And so the next thing that I have coming out, I have my first YA, my first young adult coming out in May of 2025. So guys, I'm shy. Yes, I will tell you about it. It is about a non-binary teen, she, they pronouns, who moves across the country their senior year of high school after their parents get a divorce, and she is forced to move in with her estranged half-brother who has been hiding that he is gay and living with his boyfriend. And she's like, that's all great that you're living your truth or whatever, but why couldn't you tell your non-binary bi sibling, especially after our parents reacted so badly to my coming out. And so that's coming out in May, and then in October I have a novella that's coming out about it takes place in the city, and the main character is gay and chronically ill. Hello. And it's about his relationship with his chosen family, and also a really cute boy who happens to be his best friend's twin brother. So wow, it is not a romance, just to warn you.
And are pre-orders up for the book that comes out in May?
They are not.
Okay. Everyone just follow Nicole.
Check out my website. Follow me on Instagram.
And when you say novella, how long is that about?
Like 30,000 words.
2,000 words here and there. So I have, I write because I feel that a lot of people will read fiction and learn about it, that they won't necessarily read nonfiction to learn about. Or that they won't necessarily, how many people, you probably know people right now who say, or maybe you won, but I'm not watching the news. Which to me is like saying I'm not drinking water. So I like issues. So I have a new book. Looks like it should be champagne.
It should be champagne.
It should always be champagne.
I don't know why they didn't give us champagne. I say
Vol-
that.
Volunteer run,
Champagne budget,
Yeah.
not there. That's
Okay, so I wanted to write about guns. I've always wanted to write a book about children and guns. And there are like 2 million children across America who live in homes where there's a loaded gun in the nightstand, and it's not allowed. Just asking for gun locks is like asking for the world. It's kind of ridiculous. Children die every other day, literally every other day of the year, from guns. Little kids who pick up somebody's gun in the house. So my new book, I wanted to write about that, but I want people to read it. I don't want them to say, "Oh, I never read that kind of stuff." Or I don't watch the news. So I'm writing a book about a family that lives across the street from their son's best friend who gets killed by a gun in his house. But it's not really his story or that family's story. It's the story of the family across the street. And it goes for about 20, maybe 30 years. And it's about, you know, when we meet someone today who has some issue, whatever that is, can we pinpoint to 20 or 10 or 15 years ago what caused them to be that way today? So you take this very lovely, wonderful family. I love them, I live with them. And over the time of dealing with what happened to their son's best friend, anxiety, generational trauma, lots of things occur. And so it's about those octopus tentacles, if you will. But it's a happy story. It has a happy ending. There's hope, I would say, rather than happy. There's hope. And there's a lot of information in the story that might make people think about, you know, just little questions like, you have a little kid and they're going to a friend's house. Do you ask, is there a gun in the house? It's like the most treacherous question for a parent. It's like worse than asking if, you know, do you let the kids drink? You know, it's so hard to ask. And it's such a simple question. And that's what this book talks about. Just, hey, let's think a little. But then after that, I have another book, which is called Murder at the Pickleball Court. So we're going totally funny. We're going left field.
Love a
Because
funny murder book.
yes, well, it is very funny. And that kind of gives me a little balance because these subjects are very heavy. And then I write these fun other stories. And hopefully I'll do something with those as well. That's it.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I think it's always important to balance the hope with the hard in stories, especially when you're writing for people. So this next section is called the lightning round, and I realized that all of the questions are two-parters, so it's not so much lightning, it's just like Karis thinks these questions are fun. What is a favorite book you've read and loved lately, and what about it made you love it?
So many answers for this. Okay, well, I recently finished Celestial Monsters, which is the second book in the Sunbury Trials duology. And it is so incredibly gay, and so lovely and so wonderful. And Aiden Thomas follows me now on TikTok, and I think that's really sad.
Living the dream.
Living the dream. And I am nearly finished with Compound Fracture by Andrew Jordan White. So that is his most recent book, also very gay. And it is it's you know, Queers in the South, which is one of my favorite things as someone who lives in North Carolina. It is neurodivergent representation. It's some body horror, so be prepared for that. But yeah, that's
What was the title?
Compound Fracture.
Both just came out last week and 2 weeks ago.
It came out on the same day,
and hit the New York Times bestseller list.
and
last week.
I had a little
Good on you.
party. So
Nice.
Okay.
I have a really funny book that, it's not funny, but a funny choice. A book I never would have thought I would have liked. So I went to a Penn Faulkner reading. I think it might have been a part of the Brooklyn Book Festival last year. And if you don't go to the Brooklyn Book Festival, all free. It's so amazing.
happening in 2 weeks.
And so I went to hear a couple writers, but I only went because a friend of mine knew the moderator. I didn't care about his writers. And one of them was Maggie Smith, who wrote a book called You Can Make This Place Beautiful. And if you don't know, that's reference to, which you will all have experienced or will, walking into a dilapidated house for sale and someone, the realtor or your partner says to you, you could make this place beautiful. And that's the cover of the book. It's about her going through a divorce, just young children. I have no interest in young children. My children are 40 and they're too young for me now. I can't take it. I don't want to hear about little kids' problems in any way, nor divorce long ago. Done with it. The book is mesmerizing. And not because of the story, just because the way she writes is so beautiful. And also, it's hard to, the form on the page, the way that she uses space and allows you to breathe in between things that she puts forth for you to think about, is just really close to divine. And I listened to her, I was like, she's okay. But the book is truly beautiful. I would be honored if I had the chance to meet her, just because the way she managed to totally enrapture me in a life that I am clearly way beyond and have no desire to ever return to. So that was my favorite book of the last 6 months.
That's awesome. You two were really great at describing and selling books. Everyone write those titles down. Okay, hold please. Okay, if you could travel on a book tour to any place in the world, all expenses paid. I don't know why, but the publisher is paying for some reason.
Never,
Yeah.
never.
So where are you going?
Me?
Yeah.
I would go to Ireland. I have some friends in Ireland that I visited recently and I just loved it. And I've just found a writer's retreat in Kelly, Killeagh, which is not about 2 hours probably from Shannon. Shannon's a great airport if you go to Ireland, by the way, because it's like the United States, like you don't have to clear, then you go home, go straight home, you're done. It's fantastic. So I'd like to go there and they allow you or ask you if you would like to be involved in the community. And who wouldn't want to be involved in a community? So that would be a great place, I thought, to go and do some talks and maybe do some writing, some.
Yeah. Well, you're there.
Seances or something.
Casual little writing seconds.
Dances for the Irish.
I love that answer. My answer is so much more boring. I want to go to Chicago
Oh, that's great. Go to Chicago.
because hey, one of my best friends lives in Chicago and I have not been able to see her in many years. And also she has 3 cats and I've only ever met one of them.
Well, you gotta go. You
I
gotta
think,
meet the other
yes.
cats.
I promise one day to stop just like talking about cats constantly, but today is not that day.
No, we can always talk about cats. So we're on this book tour. We're all on it together. You're going on a talk show, any talk show, daytime, nighttime. I don't know any other times, but you're on this talk show. Whose talk show are you going on? Like, who are you talking to? I'm gonna go talk to like, oh God, I just forgot her name. Kelly Clarkson.
Oh, yeah, that's a good answer.
So dream big.
I might steal that answer because I forgot about this question and I do not have an answer prepared for it. But the Kelly Clarkson show seems like a lot of fun to be on, so
You could sing with her
you could.
and that
Not
would
me,
be
but you
great.
could.
For everyone else to watch.
Very odd choice, but I'd go and be on the Jen Bush on the Today Show because she sells a lot of books.
Yeah,
That's only being Michelle.
Very smart marketing decision.
That's the only reason I've written her letters. She hasn't written me yet.
You'll get her. Okay, so you get to ask anyone in the world to be your conversation partner on your book tour.
Oh,
Who are you asking? Because you could ask Paris Hilton. You could ask Paris Hilton. You could ask Jenna Bush. You could ask. Yeah.
do you know? Do you have any?
That one I did remember, that one I was thinking about. And I've gone through so many answers and I feel like I don't have like a full, like this would always be my person to answer because I feel like I write kind of like in different genres and I feel like it doesn't really make sense to have like, you know, a YA fantasy author to be talking about this book. That being said, if like Tracy Dion ever wanted to come talk to me about my books,
Yes.
my door is always open to the author of the Legend Warren series. And the next one comes out in March. And I am desperately trying, because I live in Chapel Hill, where the first book takes place. And I'm desperately trying to get my local bookstore to agree to let me do some sort of conversation with her. So far, it has not borne fruit, but they're being very nice to me.
Is that the one by the Chinese? Which books are they?
Epilogue.
Oh.
Epilogue is a great bookstore. If you're ever in Chapel Hill, check it out.
I did think about it. No,
Yeah.
I just remember. I thought it would be interesting to invite people, like I've done some book club readings, and some book club Q and A's. With some on Zoom. I did had a meeting, I guess, with a book club in Scottsdale in Arizona. And it's so nice, they've all read your book. It's a little overwhelming. Wow, there were like 20 people and they'd all read my book. And there's this quote in this book I do love. I don't know where I got it from, but it says, friendship has no expiration date. They had made it into a huge poster and it was on the wall. No, I was just like, and then I'm like, where is it? So I thought if you were doing something like that, it'd be interesting to say, which of you people would like to be the moderator and have someone from the book club be the person who asks you questions, because they know the book better than I do. They know all kinds of things.
They'll ask you some hard questions.
They will. It would be it'd be kind of an SAT about your book. But I thought it'd be fun because I've been so incredibly impressed by, I did a book club in Westchester, a JCC book club, 50 people came. And they read my book, which was totally amazing. And there was food. It's just really something. I know. But they knew the book and they probably know it better than people who just do a lot of, you know, I have friends who are authors I've done it with, and they know my book, but not with that kind of heart.
Yeah, get a fan, someone who's really like into the world. Okay, one final question. It is the most important question. Who's your current celebrity obsession?
I don't have it. I don't even know what a celebrity is today.
I don't either. I just go with authors. They're my celebrity.
Yeah, no, I feel like I'm definitely more hyper fixated on authors. Like I've read, or, you know, like I've met some really cool people when I was living in New York, you know, Broadway actors and, you know, whoever else. And then like the one time I met Casey McQuiston, and I was like, I don't know how to speak English.
Been there.
It's like, you're so talented. And they also had a book that just came out, and toured through, and I was like, I did have the, like, you know, the brain power to be like, there is so much I want to say to you. And also like your presence is making me stupid. So, that's probably
good.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow. Well, I wouldn't mind meeting Doug Emhoff and taking a walk with him and also his daughter, Ella. I would just love to talk with her, take a long walk with her. I think she's a book. She's just got a look, and she seems, from what I see, to be very, very kind. And I think that's an interesting mix because her look is so kind of brash.
Yeah.
So I would like to meet. I'd like to go to Sunday dinner with Kamala and the whole thing. That's just invite.
Love it. Someone get the make it happen. Yeah, so that was all my questions. So I don't know what comes next, but I'm done.
Give it up. Thank you so much. This was so wonderful. Bye.
Thank you for